What's going on, everybody? LK here, back at it again with another video, and today some Dragon Ball FighterZ for y'all. So I've been thinking recently, kind of putting together my tier list for season 3. I haven't made one yet. I've only looked at a couple so far, one from literally like day 3 or 4, and then one from like 1 month in. So I've been working on putting together my own. But in the meantime, I figured I'd look at some of the more recent ones to see how other people are feeling and kind of comment them and kind of rank them on my own.
Hi, this is Gilbert Godfrey. This is about Arc-size game legend LordKnight. Check into it and subscribe it. And you can ask all the people who like it. Just check into it and subscribe. Do it now!
So first, we have Jamcroft's tier list, but before we even talk about the characters and the rankings, I want to talk about the lettering. The letters do matter. People always mention in the comments the letters don't matter. The minus and plus don't matter. They do matter. That's why people put them in the first place. It's a reflection of how strong they feel the characters are overall, how strong they feel the characters are in relation to the others, and what is the bottom line for the cast. So the letters do matter. So let's say that the Jiren, Gogeta, Nappa, Beerus, Videl were D tier. That means Crofts would think they're bad characters, like really bad characters. There are some people who would rate those same 5 characters like B tier or like B minus tier. So while they're not great in the scope of the game, they're still good characters. These letters do matter. I will get mildly tight, not that angry, but a little tight if someone says the letters don't matter or that people should be lower somehow. Okay, so with that in mind, Croft's tier list. So again, this goes down to C. So C is literally average, right? He has Jiren, Gogeta, Nappa, Beerus, and Videl there. He's got Kid Buu, Base Vegeta, Bardock, Broly, UI, Goku as S tier. No S minus tier, no A plus tier, which is pretty interesting. So this tells me that he feels like there's a significant gap between those 5 characters and the next group, which I sort of disagree with. At a glance, I actually posted this on Twitter, and that's where I got the whole idea from, but like, Yamcha should definitely be higher, Teen Gohan should be higher, Trunks should be higher as well. That's probably it on the A tier. And then for the A minus characters, I think 18 and definitely Base Goku should be higher, and also Vegito should be higher, while Zamasu, actually Zamasu's probably okay. I could give Zamasu an A minus. I'm not that much of a hater that I'm like, oh, this character sucks, totally sucks, he's like a B tier character. Besides that, Hit being B tier is kind of cap. I would say he's at least A minus, and maybe Blue Vegeta this time is like a B plus A minus character. Besides that, I basically agree. The big thing about this one is that the separation of the characters, like S straight to A, I think is just a huge jump in power levels and characters. Where, I mean, there are cases where like Teen Gohan and Trunks are just better than that. Like, you can convince me that like Trunks isn't S tier, but you can't convince me that it's not like S minus. Yamcha is probably like a straight up S tier character this time. Even like a character like Cell actually should be stronger than this as well. So like the way this is ordered is like these are the best 5 characters, and then there's a significant power gap, and then there's the rest of the cast pretty much. This is a pretty good tier list though. Like overall, I agree with it, but my main issues with it are pretty major, like pretty important ones. Mostly involving the difference in power levels between characters, like ranks between characters, and certain characters' positionings. But for the most part, position-wise, everything is like 70% good. He did say that the top tier is ordered and everything else is not, if I recall correctly. So next we have Alioun's tier list. I didn't see anything specifically about character order. He has a pretty positive outlook in the game, honestly. So he has S plus S, A plus A, and that's it. So he's saying that all the characters are mad good, basically, and it's just different levels of power. So in the top tier, you have, of course, again, Base Vegeta, Bardock, Kid Buu, UI, Trunks, Teen Gohan, Majin Buu, Broly, Adult Gohan, and Yamcha. It's Alioun, so he's always biased towards Majin Buu, but I do always value his input on Majin Buu. So usually, like, people really underrate Majin Buu, and then Alioun usually slightly overrates Majin Buu. So, like, Like from my perspective, if Alien says like Majin Buu's S plus, then Majin Buu's probably like S, which is still mad good for that character. Now another thing I would say about this is Adult Gohan as S plus is actually pretty interesting because most people, including Adult Gohan mains, think that the character is weaker. Even in season 2, he wasn't straight up like he was top tier, but his discussion was like top 7, not like top 3. The S characters are basically on point. I can't really disagree with any of these picks in this group. Again, I don't think it's ordered. Really, I think it's just the characters are in the group. For the most part, most people put their top tiers in order because since those are the characters that are played the most, it's easier to tell the difference between them. And generally, as tiers go down, people are like, okay, like I can't really group them. Or sometimes they'll do like, for example, Alien didn't do this. I'm just saying this as an example. Like from Janemba to Kefla is not in order; it's a group. But then Kefla to GT is a power gap, for example, right? But Janemba, S Broly, Cell, Base Goku, Kefla, GT, SJ Vegeta, Cooler, Frieza, Ginyu. I guess the hot one is Beerus out of these. That's the only one that I think people would look twice at. But besides that, I think all those characters are fine. I guess the only things out of these is that I think 18 by his grouping is probably like S tier. And then most people would say Beerus is not that high. Besides that, I pretty much agree. And I think this is a really good, like, if I had to think of it with a comparison with how I think of the characters, it's like about 90% on. I think it's a really good one. Besides those two things I said, I probably would have the characters grouped out a little bit more. I don't think this one's always hard, but I don't usually think there's S plus in this game since like season 1. Really, that's not true. I think my season 2 tier list I had S plus at the end of the season, but if I did have that, I probably would just have the groupings different. But as far as like how he feels about the characters compared to each other, I'm pretty much on board with this. I think it's a really good tier list. So next we have Hook Gang Gods tier list, my homie from New Jersey. We've always had pretty different opinions of the game. So looking at this, his top tier is Kid Buu, Base Vegeta, Bardock, Broly, Yamcha, UI Goku, Tingohan, Trunks, GT, Blue Goku is probably the spicy one. He's got S, A plus, A, B, and then Nappa tier. That's definitely like a meme tier. Looking at this one's also pretty solid. His placing of Adult Gohan is where most people think Adult Gohan is. Of course, he plays Piccolo, so he rates Piccolo pretty highly. Other characters, SSJ Goku, this is probably like the highest I've seen SSJ Goku in any tier list. Most people think SSJ Goku is way down. I don't think he's like super down, but like just in scope of the game, there's just not that much reason to use him because they give you so many other beam options. From there, a lot of his like A and B tier I like sort of agree with, but it's also partly like he doesn't know that much or he doesn't have a lot of experience. That's my perspective. Like Janemba, for example, or like Majin Buu. I think Majin Buu is probably a little bit stronger than that. Ginyu might actually be a little bit stronger than that. Cooler might be a little bit stronger than that. I think Blue Vegeta is in a pretty good place on this list. Overall, though, I do think this is a pretty good list. I felt like people were memeing him for this list on Twitter, though. Like, I looked at the image, I only looked at a couple comments. I saw people saying stuff like, why is this like this? But looking at it, this is pretty good. So I would actually want to go back and read people's comments and see. I think this is like 85%-ish on point. Blue Goku, he does have the potential, I would say. With the right support, probably this patch. Besides that, yeah, I think this one is pretty on point, and the top half is pretty on point. Again, I think SSJ Goku is a little bit too high, though, and Majin Buu and maybe Janemba should be a little bit higher, but this one is also pretty on point. So, last one for today. This is Mambalamba's tier list. So if you don't know who that is, he's not like a super huge personality, but he's been doing really well in Bum's online tournaments. I know him from offline. I think the first time I played him in a tournament was in CEO Otaku last year. He has his top 5 specifically ordered, going from top 5, so basically S plus to like D, C minus, Vidal, you know, he's a couple of meme tiers. And then don't know, I actually really respect that. Generally, when I don't know, I don't put the character in the tier list at all, and I try to just mention, hey, I don't know where this character goes, I'm sorry. But he put a special place just for that, so much respect for that. So his top 5, Base Vegeta, Bardock, Kid Buu, UI Goku, Broly, and then moving to S tier is Teen Gohan, Yamcha, Base Goku, Trunks, GT. He's kind of in line with me as far as power level in a sense, where like I also think there's like probably I said it before, I wasn't sure about S plus, but there probably is like an S plus, S, and S minus tiers. Generally, I consider these to be like the most viable characters, but they are mad strong. But I do think there's small gaps between them, right? And he jumps right down to A. So he thinks the difference between like those characters and the next group of characters are pretty big. That'd be like Hit, Piccolo, SSJ Goku, SSJ Vegeta, Vegito, and Cooler. I do think Vegito is weird because he's way better online than he is offline. So most people like they're really quick to just be like Vegito's an online character, but Vegito has actual merits offline. It's just that since you don't get to see him a lot offline, people don't know. So like I actually do rate the character pretty highly. I don't know if he's like S minus, but he's like at least A plus. He's definitely no higher than S minus, but he's like at least A plus, I would say. But from there, once you get to like his B, so like he has A, B, C. So then from like his strong characters, he thinks there's pretty significant gaps in power. I think Krillin is actually stronger for sure. I think Krillin is like A tier, like clear A tier, and so is Frieza. But from there, I basically agree. Besides how actually strong he thinks the characters are, he thinks the characters are weak straight up. To my knowledge, he plays like Kid Buu, Yamcha, so I kind of don't blame him for picking that. but you know, I think the characters are better than that. As far as don't know, I mean, I get it. Blue Vegeta is a big mystery for me. I do think it's kind of lazy when people... I've been accused of this, though, when people like rate a character they don't know badly. Japanese players do this a lot, not everybody. And most players tend to do that. Blue Vegeta, I think, actually is not so bad, this version. Before, my big issue with Blue Vegeta was like he just didn't really feel like he had unique stuff, and like everything he had, another character had, but better. But like now, I feel like between like he has the tools that he still had that were good, and then they kind of like fleshed out and fixed some of the other stuff. So when I played him for like a couple of days, I was like, this actually feels like pretty good. Like I probably feel like Blue Vegeta is like an A tier character. 17 is super rare, so I definitely understand him not being sure about it. Ginyu I actually think is quite strong this time. Not like top tier, but like pretty strong. We've seen now 2 people running like body swap C assist teams with him, and it's pretty obnoxious to play against. But I would probably give this one like a 80. Like an 80, maybe like an 80. This one's pretty good. Okay, so I tried to do this as professional as I could because I wanted to compare these 4 tier lists. So we have one person who's, again, not too well known. Like if you play in tournaments, you definitely know who he is, Mambalamba. But if not, if you only just like casually watch the game on YouTube, you might not know who he is. We have Crofts, a fellow content creator. We have Hook, top streamer, and we have Aliun, one of the strongest players in Europe. So we have 4 very different perspectives on the game on this. So what do we have in common? So one, a lot of people have the same general-ish top 5 characters, or at least these 5 characters are always rated at the top. Base Vegeta, Kid Buu, Bardock, Broly, and UI Goku. These characters were rated on all 4 tier lists as top tier or top 5. Some people specified it, some people just showed it, and some people just have them in their top group. Next, we have characters that are just considered really, really strong. So this is also including like Trunks, Teen Gohan, Yamcha. This is repeated over and over and over. Base Goku is represented in all the tier lists except for Crofts as like basically top tier. So that should overall show you that probably most people think Base Goku is really, really strong. Another relatively common factor, this is shown in all the lists except for Mambalamba's in my opinion, is that the middle of the game is really fat, which is good for the game. There are some games where there's like a top tier and then there's like a high tier and then the mid and low is really fat. That's not usually that good. But when the like A plus-ish A level is really, really full of characters and there's only like a few S tier characters, it's pretty good. In season 2, we basically settled on about like 12 to 13 characters. But in my opinion, there's probably more than like 25 viable characters in the game now, and viable being that this character can be on a winning team in some way. Now, they also agree a lot on who the weak characters are. So Gogeta is rated really low by everybody. Videl is rated the worst by almost everybody. Jiren is rated really low by everybody. Most people think Beerus is weak, but Alioun thinks Beerus is exceptionally strong in this case. Now, the main thing that sets these lists apart, besides you know, the size of the top tier and all that, is how strong the characters are in relation to each other. This brings us back to the very first thing I talked about, the lettering. So in Alioun's case, he thinks all the characters are incredibly strong. There are some people who go as far as rating the characters as C tier, right? C/D tier. In Mambalamba's list, basically Videl reads as D tier to me. But some people think the game has a C tier. I generally disagree with this. Probably the general population of the game probably thinks the character strength goes as low as C tier. So I think it's pretty safe to say you would see that a lot. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. It was definitely pretty interesting to get a look at what other people are thinking. Again, I'm coming up with my own, and of course when I do so, I will give a pretty detailed explanation of why I think every character's where they are, how I feel about the grouping, about the characters, and everything else we talked about in this video. I have a link to everyone's socials in the description below. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below as well. Like and subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.